Now, all right. So, welcome to week 4. This is week 4 lessons, but I'll be combining this week 4 lessons with the previous lesson, which we were supposed to have last week that was postponed. So, previously we looked at CSS list in the lesson videos. I'm sure if you have seen the lesson videos, you should be already used to CSS list list in HTML and some basic type of list. But I'm going to look at everything all over again to have a refresh on the memory. All right, so well, first we're going to look at what we have here. I have created a style which I'm going to explain. Now, in your previous lessons, I have combined everything that has been taught so far in creating this header. Now, on this page here, we have a H1 tag in the body area of this page, which holds this title called the School of Programming and Software Development. Now, as you can see here on the codes that I've written, it's made the titles to stand out. I used the inline style, which we have talked about in our previous lessons, and I used the inline style to style each text according to the choice of color I desired. So from the H1, which we have here, we have School of, which I have already styled. I styled the color of the H1 text here, but do not worry about that. So let's look at the inline styles which we have here first. So I have the School of text that it's not in any other elements, but on the next line I have a span element. Now this span element helps us to have a particular effect on a group of, let's say we want to, like what we have here, we are grouping, we're keeping this text here in a group, right? So we could have more text, we could have extra text in this particular area, but we have just programming here. So the span element helps us to apply effects to a particular group's content or elements. Now here what we have here is a content, which is a text content here, which is programming. So I use the span element to apply this particular style, since we have the inline style being written inside the body of the inside the opening tag of a particular element, and since I do not want any particular element to be applied on this particular text, I just want to create a color effect using just an inline style. So I put it inside a span element. Now, this is where the span element comes in useful. In this situation, we have several texts, and to break these texts, to have them display in different colors, I use the span, so I can apply the color effect directly on the content that I have put it into. So now I have the programming text here displayed in this blue color because I have used the inline style inside the span element to specify the color for that programming text. That's why I have programming here in this hexadecimal colors. So you can always refer back to your previous lessons to know about how you have this type of colors. We've talked about hexadecimal colors and the other type of colors. So this is also going to refresh your memories in remembering how we styled colors. So this is for the hexadecimal colors, and we have named colors as well as we have the RGB colors. So here we have hexadecimal colors that we have set for the text. Now the text, I used the yellow color to apply to the and later text. Then also for software development, we use the red color. Now I use the hexadecimal colors because these colors gives you more options. So you can get like multiple as much as possible variations of a particular color. So it gives you more options, unlike the named color where maybe you want to use the gray color. You can either have only dark gray or light gray. But using the hexadecimal colors, you can get more shades of that particular gray color. So this is what I have here. I have the heading, School of Programming and Software Development, styled using the span elements and the inline styles to specify the color for each part of the text of the sentence. Now, I also have a style, a CSS style. Now, file referencing, if you recall, we talked about how to reference styles. How to all right. Now we talked about how we can reference several files from our page. Here we have a type of reference, but this one is an import statement that we use to import a particular font. So this is for Google Fonts. I use the imports using this as import. Now you don't have to really worry about trying to understand this. This is just so you are aware that this is possible. Now this is applied in my style area, but we'll not be focusing on this for now. But when you progress in this course, you're going to find out a lot of things like this and how you can do things like this. So here I just made sure that I have a font that I can use for the whole of this page. So do not worry about this, but just take note that it's possible. Now on my heading style, in this embedded style here in my head area, I am not using an external style sheet because I want us to have everything on one page so you can easily see how the styles are applied directly. So I'll be using an embedded style. That's why I have this style tag here, and in between the open and the close tag is where I'm going to apply my styles. Now for this heading which we have here, which we also have inline styles, I also have an embedded style that applies certain CSS text properties to this heading. Now we have here font weight. Font weight is a text property that we apply to text. So this is going to specify if you want the text to be bold or you want it to be italic or underlined. So we can remember in our previous lessons we saw how we could do that inline, but this is how you can do it using CSS style. Now I have applied the text align to property to this text, and I have aligned the text to display at the center. So you can also change this and explore if you're designing your own page. I just wanted to understand how we came about this title so it doesn't look strange to you. Now I also have a font that since I've imported a font from Google, then I selected the fonts that also is in the Google family fonts that I have imported. Now you also have HTML fonts as well, other HTML fonts, but if you want specific fonts, you can try and research to see how to get your fonts for your page. Now I've set the size of the text to 3em and also the color to a green color. So this hexadecimal code here gives us the green color, but because of how the specificity of the inline style, so this is where you also see how important inline styles can be. So when you apply a style inline, it overrides every style that applied elsewhere in the embedded or in the external style sheet. Now this style is now overridden by the one we have applied inline. So if we had not created an inline style for this heading, what we would have had would be a green color for all text. But because we applied inline style using the span elements to specify the particular text we want the color to be applied to, we now have different color display. But the green color stayed on the area which we did not specify an inline style, which is still the school of text. So that's why the embedded style we applied here has only the green color displayed on the area we did not give an inline style. Now we also have a text shadow. You're going to see more of this when you progress in your class. So a text shadow basically is like drop shadows we have for drop shadow effects we have for graphic content, and so we have for text as well. So this specifies that we want a particular color, which is black, and we want the area for it to display around the text. So this values gives us the position of where we want the shadow effect to be displayed. So the higher the values, the more obvious the shades or the shadow is visible, and the position you can decide with the position where you want the position to be, if it's left, right, or you want it down or top, or you want it to be distance from the text itself. So we're going to explore that as we proceed in the course. So let's go straight to what we have today. So today we're going to be incorporating last week's topic and today's topic, this week's topics, which is week 4. Now for week 3, which we will not have the meeting last week due to network problems, we were supposed to look at lists, and I believe you have gone through the class lessons and you must have seen how we create lists in HTML. So from just for review. Okay, someone wants to ask a question. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, with this thing, how to import the font?
Okay.
Is there any, like, can you show us where to go in order to get them?
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to do that one-on-one with you because of the time we have for this show.
And then also how to apply a comment, like how to apply a comment in the
page. Okay. All right. For the comments, it's not too difficult. There's a shortcut you can use. So if you're using a Windows system, on your keyboard you can press Ctrl and the / symbol. So Ctrl and / symbol gives you a created format or a created comment, like a container for comments, right? So I can type in any text I want here and it's going to be as a comment. So that's a short way. But if other than that, you have to specify if you want the comments to be a single line comment or a multi-line comment, just like it was taught in your week 1 lesson. So you can refer back to week 1 and 2 to get the whole concept of comments. But the shortcut you can use if you're using the Windows is the Ctrl and the / key, like this. So if I press the Ctrl key and press the / it's going to give me a comment. Alright, so I'm going to focus on the topic for today, and on the one-on-one I can explain to you how you can get fonts from Google. It's quite easy. So they are online and you can get these libraries from websites available online. But for today we're going to focus on lists and how we can style our lists. Alright. Now we want to talk about lists. And for HTML lists, lists are fundamental elements for organizing and presenting information. So whatever it is that we want to present, we can use list as an option if it's possible, or if it's required to have a listed format, then you can use HTML list. So it's very important that we know these basic things, because there are times we might want to display some informations, or not just informations, even graphic content or other elements. We can apply a list to display them. But for now, we're just going to look at basic ways to use lists. Now, from the class lessons, you must have seen that we have different types of lists. Now we have the unordered list, we have the ordered list, and the third type of list, which is the DL. So I'm going to type them out here so we can see all the type of lists just for us to recall. So we have ordered list, and in between the open and close tag of the this is for unordered list, and in between we have list items. So you use the li tag for list item, so you can have as much list as you want. And so the same for the ordered list, which is written as OL. So I'm using the shortcuts provided for my IDE. So depending on the IDE you're using, most of the IDE usually gives a suggested. They try to complete the tag. You just know the exact tag you want to write. So like I have written here, I know what I want to say was the ordered list. So I type the OL and it shows me the option. So all I have to do is press enter, and it gives me the complete open and close tag of the ordered list. Now I am going to focus on the unordered list for this class. So I'm going to create containers. Since this week we're going to be looking at how to style lists. So I'm going to create containers for that, and we're going to have list in one of the container, and also we are going to style that list. And while doing that, we're also going to learn how to create containers and how to position containers on the page as well. So let's start by creating a list. But before that, I want to explain, because most of you had this challenge in your assignment. So I want to have a container, first of all, that is going to hold different containers. I want to have two containers, but first, for me to be able to style those containers, to position these two containers that I want to have, I have to create a parent container that is going to hold the two containers. Now, even if I want to have more than two containers, let's say I want to have 3 containers, I need to make sure that these containers are in one parent container that I can use to apply styles that will position Hello. Please, if you're not asking a question, please kindly mute your mic. Alright. So if you're creating, if you're going to have containers, you want to position these containers flexibly, it's most advisable to have a parent container or a parent element where you can apply these position styles to make sure that those containers you are creating can be displayed at the desired positions you want. So here I want to have a parent container that will hold every other container I want to create in this illustration. And to create containers, we use the div elements. So it's called div. So as you can see here, I have the div that's been suggested, but I'm going to type it here. So, and I click enter, and it's going to show me the open and close tag of the div. Now, this div element you see here, we call it container element sometimes. Some programs refer to it as container element because most times it holds other elements, and it can be used to structure your page in a way whereby you can have different elements and decide how you want to style them in this container. So it's much effective when you want to have a specific or group of elements styled in a specific way on a page. So it's used for several purposes, several ways you can use a div, and it comes in handy. But for this illustration, let's create containers in this div, illustrating how to input elements in the containers and how to style them. I'm going to copy the close tag and make sure that every other container will be visible in this container. Now, the containers itself do not have any visible effects when you check. Let's save this and refresh the page. So I refresh my page and you don't see anything here. But when we apply styles using borders, we're going to see a border edge around the container, which is going to signify where we have the container or signifies the container. So first, let's have another container. So here I'm going to create a container. I have used comments to guide me to where I will be creating each element. Now I want to have another container here. These are the child containers, and I'm going to be giving this a class. Now, what do we do with class? The class attributes. Now, as you can see here, just like we have the style attributes for inline styles, we also have class attributes. So we have several attributes for this particular container. The class attributes is used to have a particular, just like the name class, we're going to have a particular name for this container. We're going to give it a name, and we're going to call that name whenever we need to style or to apply any effects or changes or style to that particular group of elements that are in this class. Call this container. We're going to call it container, and inside this container, which is between the open and close tag, we're having another container, which is the child container, and this is going to be box 1. So I'm going to give the name of this class to be box 1. I want to have another container, this same container, and we use the div tag, and also with a class you can name this box 2. So we are going to be styling these boxes. We're going to be applying styles to these boxes to see how we can have elements like the lists and containers styled. So we're going to be giving it borders. So for now, we won't see any visible effects yet because we have not applied borders to it, or we've not put any content in this container set. So for the first container here, which we have, I want to have a list. So this is where I am going to style the list elements. So we're going to be using the unordered list, which is the UL tag. And in the UL tag, I want to have several list items, and using the LI tag, it's going to specify that we want to have a list item here. So in the list LI tag, I want to have this named as item 1, and I want to have another list item called items. And I'll just have that one. Item 3. Now, if I save this, we are going to see the list itself, the items, but we're not seeing the containers. So the containers are not yet visible, but we know that we have them in a container. So to make sure that these containers are visible, we're going to apply borders to these containers. Now, you practically don't have to always add a container. It all depends on what you want to have, what you want to do to the container itself. So yeah, I want borders, but maybe I want to have just other elements and display them the way I want, so I don't have to always use a border. But for this illustration, I just want to show you how we can as well apply borders and style borders in this lesson. So I have a list here, and on my second container, which is going to be an empty container, we're going to be inserting an image in this container. So I am not going to give any elements, any other elements in this container. So we're going to leave it empty. But we can always have inline styles. So for the content that we're going to be inserting here, we can apply inline styles too as well. But let's create the borders before we apply anything. So I'm going to name this. I'm just going to put a name here so we can see what's inside here. I'm going to call it box 2. And I want the text, so I'm going to use the inline style just like we have here. I'm going to say style and then specify the property, the text property or the CSS property that I want to be applied to this. So I want to have this text that I have written inside as box 2. So I want to have a style to align it to display at the middle of the box. That's the display property should be centered. So I'm going to use text align for that. The text property we use to align text in the container, we use the text align property. And the column will specify the value where we want the text to be. So I want the text to be centered. So I use the value, the CSS value that comes with the property, text align, center. I'm going to save this and see what we have on the page. Alright, so we're going to apply styles to these containers that we have created and also the list, so we can see how it displays when we apply borders. Now, first we want to have a general style. This general style is going to be applied to the whole body of the page itself. So I'm going to use the body element, which is body. And on this body element, I'm going to insert an image, or I could decide to use a background color. So let's try the background color first. So we have a CSS property called background color, and this background color we're going to give a particular color that we want to be displayed all over the body area of this page. So the body is basically the visible, almost the whole visible part of this page. So whatever color we apply is going to be displayed all over the page. So that because we have used the body elements to apply this style. So now we can choose to use light gray. So let's see how this displays on the page. Now we have the color displaying as light gray. Alright, now we can apply more properties to this body element. We can use an image. So I'm going to show you how to insert an image as a background. So I'm going to take out this, and we're going to use the background image property. So I'm going to select background image, and I'll be using the URL to specify the path to my image. Now inside this URL, I'm going to specify the path to where the image I want to be displayed on this page. Now on my image folder, I have images that I have saved already. So I have an image called background, which I want to use for this illustration. So remember how we linked the file reference thing. So I want to locate this background image. And where do I have this image? I have this image in the images folder. And where am I going to, what am I writing from? I'm writing from the CSS. Okay, no, I'm not using the style sheet, sorry. So I'm writing from the index.html file. So since I'm going to reference an image that is inside this folder, I have to first of all specify the name of the folder. So the image is in the images folder, so you have to take notes of the spelling so you don't have error or the image does not display. So you have to take notes of it, because I think someone asked me this question from the class that the image was not displaying. So always take note of the name of the reference file you are getting your files from. So if I had the image in the root directory, let's say I have the image in this directory next to this index.html, I would not need to specify it in a folder because it's already in the parent folder, which is week 4. So because I have the image in the images folder, I have to specify first the name of the folder where the image is located, and then I have to write the exact name and the file format of the image. So the name of the image is background, and then the file type is a PNG file. So I have to specify that it's a .png file. Now if I don't do this, I will not have the image displayed on the page. So let's see how the image displays on the page before we start further. Now this is the image. The image is a wooden frame. So now you can see that we have changed the background to an image. So we can further make sure that this image is displayed properly on the page, so that several CSS properties we can use to display to make sure our image displays properly. So we have background position. And what does the background position do? It makes sure that if we have an image as a background, or we have something we have set as the background, and we want it to display at a particular area of the page, here we want it to be the background position. I want it to be center, and then I want the background size. So this display property, this background property called background size. So as you can see, we have different background properties. So I'll be using background size, and this the value I want for this background size is going to be cover, because I want it to be the cover of the whole page, because the body is the element that covers the whole page. So I want this image I have inserted into the body element to display as a cover for the whole page. So the complete image now is now visible, but because the image is not the exact size of the whole page, it's being repeated to fill up the remaining space that left. So the property we use to specify that we do not want our image to be repeated. Let's just have the image as it is on the page. So we use the background repeat property, which is background repeat. So we'll set this to no repeat because we don't want it being displayed multiple times. So if I refresh now, we have the exact size of the image. So you can also change the size of this image. You can make sure this image is stretched, but it won't look good. So it's best if you work with the right size of the image for your web page. But this is just basically you can insert an image as background using CSS. You can also insert image on the HTML. We're going to look at that more often. We're going to be using different scenarios with that. But for now, we'll just look at this is how you can insert image using CSS in the elements we have in the HTML page. Now, let's go to the list. Let's look at the list styles we have. Now, we have different list styles, and here we're going to be applying this list style to the list we have created here. We created an unordered list, and we have 3 items in this list. So let's apply this style. Let's apply styles to this list so they can display properly. Now, for the list, we're going to call the UL tag, which holds the list. And what style do we want to add to it? We want to have the list style tag. Now, the list style tag is for the marker. Now, what we have here is default marker, which is disk. So we want, like the class lesson, if you recall, or you can refer back to the class lesson if you haven't seen it, where we have different type of markers and how we can change the markers of the list. But today we're going to focus on how to use images, since that is more complex. So here I'm going to specify that I do not want a list style type. So I'm going to set the list style type to none. So let's see how this looks like. So by default we have a list style type, but now I have set the list style type to none. Now we do not have any list style type seen on the page. So now we can decide what type of style we want to apply to our list. Now another property we are going to use is the list style image. So this is particular to the list, and it's a style we can use to upload image, insert image as markers for our list. Alright, Mr. Emmanuel, you have a question?
Please, I think I had issue. I was thinking before you can style in the distance, the HTML page, you have to call out. For example, you see the ordered list style. When you were styling, you just called out the ordered list distance tag, and then you started styling in them. I was thinking you have to call out the style element, and then inside the style element you have the ordered list.
Or like I have to call the li tag, or you want
you see when you are styling the distance, the h1, you call the style tag, and then inside the style tag you started styling.
Okay, you mean the h1 tag, right? I call the h1 tag
here
and I styled it. Yes. So
assuming you see with the h1 tag you just called it and then you style. So what if you call out a style tag, and then inside the style tag you style the h1 inside it? Would it also work?
Okay, that would be too complex. Now I don't know how that's possible. Honestly, I don't know how that's possible. This is the way we call tags and apply styles to them. So this is the best practice way you can apply styles to any elements or tags on HTML.
So if you want to style a particular tag in an HTML page, you just call out this thing.
Yes.
The name of the tag, and then you begin to style.
Yes, exactly.
But
so you apply styles.
I was thinking with the embedded style, that one you have to call the style tag, and then
no, this it remains the same. If we are using an external style sheet, we still use the same format. And if you notice, the only time it's not called, the only time an element isn't called is when we are using an inline style. An inline style does not require you to call the elements because the style is being applied directly in the elements. So if we, for example, here we have in this div, we have the text style. The style here we have is text align property, and the value to be centered. So what we did here is that we said we want this box 2, which we wrote inside this container. We want it to be displayed in the middle of the box. Now there's no border yet, so I'm going to create a border so you see. But what I'm saying is I did not need to call the div elements here in the CSS, since I can apply directly to the div elements itself. And the reason why I did that is because I'm going to be applying styles to I'm going to be having, like here I have the different elements. I have the list elements, that's the list on other list. So if I apply a style to the div directly on the CSS, it's going to apply to the rest of the div. So every div that has a text, let's say I apply this text to be centered in a div tag here. So every text I write that is inside any of these elements that is called a div is going to be affected. So to make sure that only this div does not have any other style affecting it, I make sure I use the inline style. So this now makes sure that even if I use call the div tag here in the embedded CSS and I apply a style to it, it's not going to affect this particular div. So that's the difference. Here you call the tag, call the elements, and we apply the style. But in the inline style, you do not need to call it because you are applying it directly on the elements you are supposed to call and style it here. So you're applying it directly on the elements, so you do not need to call it anymore. So this is just the best practice to apply styles to elements. Now we're going to apply styles to these classes as well, using the same format. We're going to call the class by calling the I'll do that so you see. So let's just try and keep up with the time. So now let's look at the styles for the list. I'm going to get to those parts so you see how it's done. So I want to insert an image for this list style type. So you can have an image as the marker. Now you can see how I insert an image here in the background. So I'm going to do the same using the URL, and in the between the parentheses I'm going to specify the path to where the image is. So just like the first one, I have the images in the images folder, and here you can see the image folder, which is having 3 images. So I have background.png, and I also have container.png, and I have marker.png. So I want to use this image, marker.png. So I'm going to say that I have this marker.png in the images folder. So, and the name of this image is called marker.png. Marker.png, and I make sure that this part is in equals. So now it's going to locate my image marker.png inside the images folder. So if I refresh this, I'll be seeing the image. So the image is quite small. I make sure it's small so it's in for a marker. So if you have a bigger size image, this is going to be displayed probably too big or bigger than the text itself. So you always want to make sure the type of image you are inserting on the page to make sure that the image is in the right size to fit in the area which you want. So just like we have here in the background, as you can see, the image background isn't the size for this image or this background, but we can always adjust the image. But it's best if you have a good sized image. So you have to take notes of this. You have to make sure you want to understand first how the image should be displayed, the size of the image, the area the image is going to be displayed before inserting your images. So yeah, I've already gotten a small size image that I want for this particular list marker. So that's why it is displayed small like this. Right. Now we can also make sure that the marker displays either inside or outside, and that's within around the list itself. Now to do that, the list type position, and list type position is written as list style position, and we want to specify that we want the position to be outside for this illustration. So you might not see much difference. Yeah, so let's see what's inside this. So you see it's shifted out a bit, and if we want it to be outside, we change it to outside and it's going to shift closer to the margin. Now this is just how we can style the list itself. So let's look at how to apply styles now to the containers. So we're going to create borders. So first, let's have the parent container styled first. Now the style we want to have here is going to be applied to the class which we have created for this container. Now if you notice on my IDE, which is Atom I'm using, if I click on the open tag, it shows me where the tag is. So you can see now very well that I have a div tag that holds two containers. Now this is the first container called box1, and this is where it ended. And we also have another container called box2. So you can see where they started and they ended. It's the blue highlights underlined, right? Now this is how we know the end and close tags of our elements in HTML using Atom. Now other IDE has their way of highlighting this as well. So now in the parent folder, in the parent container, I want to have styles, and this way I can style this parent container in a way it will not affect these other containers. Depends on how you call these containers. That's why we have a style. We have a class for this, so we are going to apply the style to the class. And so when you call in the class, you use the full stop, the full stop symbol, and the name of the class itself. So we have container as the name of the class. So whatever style I apply to this container is going to be affected on how I apply it. So where or which of the elements I applied inside this container. So in this container, we want it to have a display policy whereby whatever we insert into the image will have a different display. So before I style this container, I'm going to first of all display the containers that will be inside this parent container. And the containers that are inside, we have two containers. We have box1 and box2. So let's have the style for box2. And remember, we use the class, so we use the full stop and the name of the class, which is box1. And first, we want to have a container that is visible. So let's look at how to create that. Now, to make sure that we have borders around this container, we use the border property, And I will just go straight to the shorthand so we don't take too much time here. So we have different types of border property, but here we want to specify most of the properties in one line. So the way the shorthand is written is the border width. I want the size of the border width to be 2px, so not too wide. And then I also want the border to be solid. So we have different types of. If you refer back to the class lesson, you're going to see these properties, how they are structured. So now I want it to be solid, and I also want it to have a black color. Then I want the border to have a width of 200px, and I also want the border to have a height of 200px as well. Now for this border, we're going to insert image into the border, and we're going to use the same image property called the background image, and we're going to specify the URL, the image location. So I have this image I want to insert here in my images folder, and inside the images folder I have an image that is called container. So the name of the image is called container, and the type of file is a PNG. Save this. So this would have the image inserted, and also I want okay, I think this should be enough. So I'll save this now. Let's see how the container displays. So this is the image, and this is the list inside the image. So you see the possibility of having this done by using CSS. So now we have styled the marker, and we have also styled the container, which the list is located, to have a background image. So you can see that it displays the image and also displays the list as well. Alright, so let's have the second container styled so we can have everything visible. So the class we used for the second container is called box2, and for box2 we want to have a border So we're going to apply the same shorthand. So I'm using 3. Let's use 5x for this. And I still want it to be solid. And I want the color to be black as well. Alright, now I also want the width to have a 200 pixel size, and as well as the height. And I want to have it padded. I'm going to apply padding to this. And the padding, now padding, just like the class lesson, we have padding left, right, and top and bottom for padding purposes. Here I'm going to be using the general padding. So I'm not going to specify which of the area, which of the side I want the padding to be applied to. So since I'm not specifying, which means I'm just applying the general padding, and padding will be the X to the general body of this container. Now padding is located at the spaces around the container itself, inside the container. So we have a text here. So in between this content and this border, this is where we find our padding. Now for the margin, which we're going to have, just like the padding, we have margin top, margin left, and so on. But we're just going to have one general margin for time's sake. So we're going to have the padding as 5px as well. And finally, we can always have an outline. An outline really is just to make sure the container stands out. So we have to style the outline to have a unique look. So here I want the outline to have 2px size. So the outline size is 2px, and I want it to be dashed and color to be red. So refer back to the class lesson how to write a shorthand style of your CSS boxes. So I save this, and now I have the two containers displayed on the page. But you see they are not displaying well. So this is why we have a parent container to make sure we apply a style to it to display the properties, the containers the way we want. So in the parent container, I'm going to specify the display I want, since I have these two containers in the parent container. So I'm going to apply a style, the display property, to tell the browser that I want this container to be displayed. Now we have different types of display here. We have block, we have flex, we have list, as you can see. But what I want here is the flex property. With the flex property, you can easily position your containers or in any elements you're applying it to. You can say, let's say we have P elements in this container, and we can still set this display to be flex and specify how we want the P elements to be displayed inside this container. Now, as we go, we're going to see how that is done. Maybe I think in the next lesson where you see different type of selectors, we're going to do something similar to that. So now we want the container to have a display property of flex, and what comes next is how do you want the containers to be displayed, since we have specified we want it to be flexible, so we can display position it the way we want. So we use the justify context, justify content property to specify how we want it. So for this, I want them to have a space between them. I want an equal space. So by default, if you use the space between, we're going to have an equal space, an equal space between the containers or the items that are inside this container. Now it doesn't matter if it's more than one container, they are all still going to be displayed with a space between. But if you have a container that is bigger than the screen that you have, let's say you have the size of these containers to be 500 px, so they are not going to display well or as flexible as we want, because the size are too big. So this only works mostly for containers that can fit in a particular position we place them. So now the next thing we want to do is to make sure that the items are aligned in the center. So we use the align items property and specify center. So the contents, which the containers are displayed in a centered position. Then we're going to give a margin 10 pixels. So just to make sure that the containers are positioned well. So as you can see here now, I have the containers. I have every style I've applied to the containers. I have them positioned aligned next to each other, but with a space between, since I have specified. So you can always explore, try out the different values, try out the different properties we can use to display and position elements on the page. So I'm going to, because of this, I'm going to be stopping here, but I'm going to round up with how you can calculate the box model for these containers. So how do you calculate the box model? I'm going to use the box tool for that illustration. So comments, like I said, if you're using a Windows system, you press Control and the / key like this. So I'm going to type Control / and then I have a comment. Now I want to calculate the box model for this container called box 2. For box 2, to get the total width and the total height, all we have to do is make sure that we are adding up every property that holds a value for width. That's the width of the container. So here we have several properties that holds the values for width and height. So this starting from the border itself, the border width which we specified here was 5 px. So this has already given us a clue that we have a border that has a width of 5 px, and then the width of the container itself has been set to 200 px. So we are only looking at width here. Now remember, the padding has different sides, has padding top, padding left, right, and bottom. But what we did here is we did not specify any particular side, which means the value we have given here is going to be applied to all sides of this container. So for looking for the width of the padding, we're also going to say the width is as good as same as 5, because it's the same equal value that will be applied to all sides of the container. So the width we have added here now is 5, because the padding does not have a specific side value given. So if maybe we are giving it to have different values, padding top, padding left, then we can specify for the width of the padding that we have specified in the property. So here we have a general value for all sides of the container, which is 5. So I'm going to start typing it here so we can see. So we have 5 plus 5, and the width. So we have 5 plus 200 plus 5. And next we have for the margin, just like the padding, we are not specifying a side and we give a one value for all sides. It means that all sides are equal to this value. So which means for the width left, for the width of the container, the left and the right is given as 5 px as well. So now we're going to say that what we're doing here, what we have here now is I'm going to write this. So the first width for left and right is 5, and which is for the border. Then for the width itself is 200. So the total width left and right is 200. So we do not have to repeat this. Then for the padding, which all sides are equal, we have the padding left and padding right to be 5, since we have all sides equal. And also for the last part, which is the margin, we have it as 5 px, which means the margin left and margin right is 5 px. So we have another 5 plus 5. So adding this up will give us the total width of this container, and it goes to the same for the height. So to get the height, we're going to add on, since we did not specify which area of the border that has the particular value, we specify that 5 px equal side of the border. So that means it's going to be the height for top and bottom, it's 5 px. So we're also going to have 5 plus 5, and the height we specified here was 200 px. So the total height of the container is 200 px, and so we're going to have 5 plus 5 plus 200, and also the padding, since we did not specify which side of the padding, we will not specify value for each side of the padding, which means that the top and bottom is 5 px as well. So 5 px for top and 5 px for bottom, and as the same thing goes for the margin as well. That's why we have the same value. So this will give you the total value for the width. So this is for width. since we use the same value for the height, let's just say height equals to this. So this is where we're going to end the class. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask now.
Hello.
Hello.
With the width, like when calculating for the width, the size of the width, why didn't you add the left and then the bottom? You only use the up and down.
For the width. So the width is the how do I do this? Okay, we're talking about width. We're not talking about the height, right? So the width is the side.
Okay, so the width
of the container
going to be the left and
side,
right
side. Yeah, so it's what makes up
okay
width. But for the height, we only look at the top and bottom.
Okay, bottom. Okay.
Height. So that's why we have this. Alright, I'm seeing the comments here. From Femi is no longer on the chat. Okay, so I'm going to reach out to Femi. He wants to know if the class is started.
How about another question?
Okay.
I have another question, please. Alright. About the box. What if you are told to make the box, the containers align horizontally side by side as you have done, with a space equal to the containers width between them? What does it mean? With a space equal to the containers width between them.
Okay, so there's
equal to the container width.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, there are several ways we can do that. Now, as you can see here, we just get the size of this side of this container for that, especially the box 2. So for box 1, as you can see, we do not have any extra aside from the general width and the 2px we gave for the width of the border itself. For box 2, we added more width value. But what we have here, by using the justified consent space between. So when we do this by default, if you have just items, you're going to get the items with an equal space, right? So if you're going to have 3 items, it's still the same thing. As long as those items can be positioned in line in the page, you're going to have the equal space between them. Now, it doesn't really mean that that's the only way you can do that. Now, remember, I mentioned you can have margins of left and right. So there are different ways you can research to see how this is done. But I'm just going to give you these 2 options. But you have to make sure you're careful about this to make sure that the space between is equal to the containers itself. So now the containers we have here is we have 2 boxes. We have one 200 px and the other is also width of 200 px. Now the width I can decide here now, since we have width as 200 px, I can decide to say I want the margin left for this box 2. So I can decide to say I want margin left, which is this part, this space you're seeing here. If I do not specify this flex here, if I do not specify the justified contents to have space in between, I'm not going to have a space in between. But if I now decide that I want the margin, I'm going to outside this, so I'm going to use margin left. margin left, which is the left side of the container. So I want 200 px, which is the width of the container. So I'm going to say 200 px and save this. So you see, we have this 200 px. Now I mentioned we have already added extra width to this container because we added more wider border, right? So it's looking bigger. But what we have here is the space between them is 200 px, just like the width space itself of the container. So there are different ways you can.
Okay, so when you use the margin left, the space it is going to give you is the same as when you use the justify. It is also going to give you the same space in between them.
So that's what I want you to actually. I want you to explore yourself, right? Check them out and see, because there are no this is exactly how it must be done programming. They are basic you must learn to now innovate how things can be done. So you can explore and see different ways you can do it. But the most important thing is I want you to just see that these are possible, right? So I use the display justify content space between to make sure that there's a space in between the containers. And now I have used the margin left to also make a space between. So you can still explore yourself. It's much easier when you try this out on your own and see. But I'm always available. So on the group chat, you can always reach out to me when you have maybe an error or you have a particular resource that you do not understand. Then you can reach out to me and I will explain. But this is another option as well to make sure that there's space between the containers. So if you research for more further, you're going to see other possibilities to as well. Now, because I have used the property align item center. So you see now this is the horizontal and the items are centered on the page, right? It's centered. Like when I mean centered, if I use a full page, it's not that's for this for the container now. It's not displaying like the container should be one top and one bottom. So they are horizontally centered. Both of them are on the same line, right? Hello?
Okay.
All right. So because of time, I think the class here, so others can have themselves. But you can always reach out to me on WhatsApp. I can explain. Right? So I wish everyone happy weekend and success in this time.
Thank you.
Bye.